I'm a Freemason. Of course I take my regalia case everywhere I go.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I make subtle references to the ritual during my daily conversation. It is found.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I know all the words of the national anthem.
I'm a Freemason. Of course, I have several pairs of white gloves in my case, including ones that have really seen better days.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I forget my ritual on the day.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I'm in the Royal Arch.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I take my Grand Lodge certificate everywhere I go.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I wear my pinstripes to work.
I'm a Freemason. Of course I play Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm a Freemason. Of course my non-Masonic friends.
All want to know what the secret handshake is.
Tell us what the likelihood is of Harris running for governor.
What she's been saying to people over the last couple of weeks, donors, other supporters that she's been talking with, is, you haven't seen the last of me, I'm not going quietly into the night. Advisors, people close to her, are debating about what that means. They do not want her final official act ever to be essentially certifying Donald Trump's win over her, especially 4 years after January 6th. And so they look at this governor's race in California in 2026, and it seems to them like a layup, essentially, that she would probably clear the field, or mostly clear the field, and she would get to be governor of California. It's a pretty good job, right? It was good enough for Ronald Reagan and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jerry Brown. But if she does that, that means that she couldn't turn around and run for president again in 2028, right? She'd need to essentially declare right away. And that is what it really comes down to, because there are people close to her who say she didn't get a fair shot this year. It wasn't up to what she could have done, and look how well she performed anyway. She should get to go again in 2028. And then there are ones who say, look, with where things are with the Democratic Party, she would not have a cleared field, rather, in the Democratic primary, and could lose the nomination. And to come off of 2024 into that would be really terrible.
Today's show is called God is Not a Judge, on August 21st, 2026.
And we're going to prove that, but the date is very interesting today because phonetics matter, because all energy exchanges matter. And when sounds hit our ears, they assemble in our subliminal conscious, and they re-emerge in manifested ways that we don't always understand. But the date today has the phrase 8 to 1. So 8 to 1 is obviously a ratio of 9 parts. So on one side, in the material side, you have 8/9, 89. On the other side, you have 1/9, 19. The smaller fraction is the base operating system of our existence. The spread of our existence is concluded in the 8/9, the 8/9 story. If you take the letters from the 8/9 story and combine them, it's the HI story, the high story, the high story. This is the way we greet each other when one human meets another human and recognizes each other's soul. It's the high story. And as our relationships develop, we aggregate and progress. So our history is not history. That's the sound of the serpent. Hiss. Our story is happening now as an aggregation of everything that happened before. And when we acknowledge it, we win. The 8/9 story, the high story. So now let's talk about God being a judge or not a judge.
God is not a judge. God gave the aspect of judgment to mankind. We are the personified and the judges. Man decided to transform God into a judge to serve political agendas. Now we're going to talk about the Freemasons, and also known as Free-Ma-sons. sons.
So basically, Ma is a root word and also a real word in ancient times that meant land of. So it's out of order, the word Freemason. But the sons and the free are obvious, and the Ma, or the land, is in the center. So the main force or agenda, desire, fire of the Freemason is to maintain the material.
The lower degrees of Masonry, which the men in the video most likely are foot soldiers for the hierarchy. Rank and file members are tasked with making the fraternity appear harmless, charitable, and benevolent.
The Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Illuminati, once said, "The great strength of this order lies in its concealment," meaning acting. He detailed how the lower degrees of the Masonry Gang Club are actors and presenting cover stories for those at the top. They are never told unless they climb up the ladder.
Most Masons never advance past the Blue Lodge. Lower level Masons are manipulated and deceived by those higher up in order to keep the truth of the fraternity concealed. They're led to believe that Freemasonry is for the pursuit of higher moral conduct, but those at the top are practitioners of strategic acting, mental manipulation, secret agendas, sorcery, and covert application of magic. Above the 30 degree, the Mason is introduced to Lucifer as their master and chief, and the practice of Luciferianism, teachings of the ancient mystery Babylon schools. Meanwhile, the lower degrees are all actors performing cover stories and smoke and mirrors. The lower degrees have no knowledge that there's another side to their lodges that obeys Lucifer as the, quote, the great architect, unquote, of mankind.
Yeah, but the real story is a gang that wants to keep you in the cave. It's just like the Plato story of the cave. So they want you to sit in the cave and look at the shadows on the wall and be content with your chicken coop provisions. That's the great architect, is to have you spinning in place and stay in your cage. So all the cover stories have more cover stories, and they have more cover stories. And the cover stories never end if you attend to them. If you decide to exit the cage, then those cover stories of lies, deceptions, and delusion will have no effect on you.
And now a crispy convo with Crispy. And Crispy said, "How do I avoid temporary distractions and hedonism? How can I make sure that I am pursuing genuine fulfillment?"
Well, that's a great notion, but don't forget you're only going to be young once, so don't miss out on too much. But the first things first is that everything arrives in processions.
I'm sorry to hear that you are being attacked. I'm curious, what do you mean by processions? Like things happen in predictable patterns?
Well, I mean, all things happen in steps, like one step at a time. So modern humans are trained to skip steps, and that way they always lose. They have no chance to win because they're skipping steps. And that's because we're in a criminal world with vile leaders that train us through repetitions to skip the steps. And they also cause omissions in our learning, so a lot of things go unseen. If you follow the world's suggestions, you'll never meet your inception. God will ignore you because you'll think God is ignoring you. For all intents and purposes, God will not exist in your daily life. You were born with a purpose. You are not random, because that's not possible. The way patterns appear as known knowns, also as known unknowns, unpredictable patterns, and then unknowns, unknowns, things that have never been seen before. Nothing is hidden. It's all we need is in front of us. And all questions or answers are in plain sight.
And Crispy responded, "I really empathize with these ideas, especially the idea that we can gain a lot from asking questions. Recently, I decided to start going out of my way to look for perspectives like yours because I think they have a lot to teach. and I want to take those ideas and share them with others. What do you think is the best way to spread knowledge like this?
Well, I think the most noble thing you could do is want to serve others and yourself, your inner urge or fire. But you have to outright own the knowledge, like no doubt, standing on firm ground with ruminant study. Beliefs and faiths and imagination can be a killer of ownable knowledge, which means applicable knowledge. Beliefs are not applicable, they're imagined realities.
And Crispy's response, I would agree. I try to engage with opposing viewpoints to find the ones that are the most stable and effective. True knowledge removes the need for faith. What do I do after I own the knowledge? How do I make others see the truth?
Like I said earlier, everything comes in steps, so you'll have to acquire the knowledge, validate the knowledge, and then repeatedly test the knowledge, and then you'll own the knowledge. So these are the steps to owning knowledge, and what comes after won't be known until you own the knowledge. But natural order is your partner, so keep pressing until you do have the knowledge and it's validated. Everything is always aggregating to parity according to what you project out. What goes out returns. Everything's give and take, and then it aggregates in perfect order.
And the response, I understand. It seems as though I need to have some faith in this process after all, haha. Do you ever find it frustrating that it can be hard to escape faith in this way?
Yes, it bothered me my whole life until 2008 when I learned that I am the boss of me. Everything is in a procession, and the doubts we go through are part of that. You will know when the time comes, one step at a time.
And Crispy said, interesting. Would you say that we can build complete control over our own lives? Or is there always some part left to chance?
Well, chance is a parsing of the ants, which is a root word for woman and man, and it relates to change, which is a parsing of your energetic self. So the chance and the change are partners, and they're a constant. This statement was written at 7:40 a.m. my time. 7:04 reduces to 7:4.
You slip back into picking sides too easy without even thinking about it.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
All right, I was just saying, I was glad that you saw something you recognized in me, same type of way I did with you. Just the way I heard you talking, I felt like I recognized the feeling of trying to have something you wanted to communicate, but not knowing how to get it out there. Sometimes I have something really deep and heavy, I feel like somebody else needs to hear, and not entirely sure the best way to communicate that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you hear my voice in voice chat?
Voice chat? Oh. No, I wasn't, not in the other server. This is the first time I'm hearing it right now.
All right, but when you said, here are the things I talk about, you meant the way you heard them in your head as you read them on the page.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, that's even more fantastic about the way that you became as a human being, is that you can hear things just from reading things. In other words, they assemble in your head. It's not just ... like Morse code going through your head, technical. You're saying it in colors and in a more dramatic or spread out way. You're connecting different things to what you're reading. In other words, you've let your mentality be more spread out, more wide, more functioning. A lot of people are getting this constant repetition of fast-paced things like TikTok world, Not TikTok itself, but TikTok world, where you're jumping from one thing to the next, and you're not holding anything dear, and then suddenly nothing is dear anymore. Nothing becomes dear. And you've held on to that aspect of yourself, which I have also, is the dear part, the part that matters. So you've recognized, I mean, I don't mean to psychoanalyze you like this, but I'm really talking about myself. So
I'm for all of that, bro. Like, I'm trying to type of judgments you want to make.
all
I'm
right.
down to hear all. You know?
I appreciate it because I'm talking about me too, even though I'm talking about you. So it's like,
No, I get you.
yeah. So like, we feel a little bit lost because nobody seems to be talking about what the truth is of why we exist, and it doesn't seem to make sense to us because we feel like we would resonate perfectly if somebody would just say it. But
No, I get that feeling.
yeah, right. But there's nobody saying it. Instead, they're talking about shit that doesn't matter. Things that are temporary.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been down this road a million times. And I met Nina 40 years ago in a hallway. We didn't even know each other. We just froze at sight of each other. So it was like love at first sight. So it was real like a movie almost the way things unfolded for us. So that's hard for you to imagine, but you might have parents that are really in love. Is that?
I'm still a young one, but it's great to hear that you guys had that type of experience. And I think you can have something almost similar to that. Not like there's so many different types of love. It doesn't have to be like romantic. You can feel like a type of connection with somebody just through like feeling, like seeing yourself in them, just feeling like very almost like an intellectual connection, or just that you guys have similar types of values. But there's there's a lot of different types of love, man, and it doesn't just have to be romantic. Like you feel love for your friends, for your pets, and stuff like that. It's just about like closeness, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've just pinned it down. I mean, I'm using that phrase loosely with quotes around it. So, like, I think I've identified it as an energetic exchange that's always ongoing. And your mentality is like the way you rationalize it. So, if you push your mentality to rationalize it, then you see all these connections. This not just energetic exchanges and not just energetic connections, but energetic aggregations. You know what the word aggregation means? Accumulation. You familiar with the use of that word aggregation? So
yeah, just kind of collectivizing.
Yes, collectivizing, right. So in other words, it may be morphing as it progresses, but it's always progressing. So no matter it's like, let me talk about patterns for a second. There's three kinds of patterns that military strategists consider, and this makes sense and should make sense in your reasoning. So they recognize patterns that are consistent or stable. They call them the known knowns. That's the first one. They have three that they consider. So the first one is patterns that are stable. They always do the same thing. So they call those known knowns. Then they have yeah, go ahead.
Math or something.
It is almost mathematical in the way that it's being viewed here, but it doesn't mean that you're going to leave your emotions out of it. Okay, you're just going to consider this rationally at this moment. But once you put it together, then you'll bring your emotions in and then, gel it together like that. So anyway, there's three types of knowns that the military strategists consider in any strategy. The first set is the known knowns. The second set is the known unknowns. So these are patterns that always hiccup. They always change direction. They're always morphing. So they're somewhat predictable because they're known unknowns. So they consider about both of these sets. The third set that they have to consider, even though they can't predict it, they can prepare, but they can't predict it. Those are called unknown unknowns. Now, they only know that they come up because they have eons of experience in military challenges, okay? Eons, literally. I don't mean that lightly. Yeah. So they know that they're going to come across unknown unknowns along their way. So they can make alternate plans, as many as they can, to try to face off with the unknown unknowns as best they can. But they're basically disabled at that area, the unknown unknowns. So they have plenty of ability in the known knowns and the known unknowns because they keep all their data. They don't fucking toss it like most average people do today. So they keep all their data, they keep aggregating it, we're going back to it, trying to do it better over and over again. So they're supreme at the known knowns and the known unknowns. And they're also supreme at knowledge that there are unknown unknowns. Okay. Right. So basically, I forget exactly why I was bringing that up, but this patterns, right? So patterns emerge through processions, and I was talking about morphing earlier, how everything's progressive. So everything is processioning. Everything's moving one step at a time forward for you, for me, for the groups we're in, for the world at large, for the communities we live in, and so on. All these different levels. But progression in the human sphere is always moving forward. It's always progressing. So where is it heading? It's headed toward more progression. It's a continue. It's a continuum of progression. So where is each of us as an independent fit in this grand story, this grand game of the continuum of progression? That's the big question.
Good. So you got to find your kind of like smaller place in the bigger picture, like the story almost. Like, just have to think of it as a story maybe a little bit, you know?
Well, there is that aspect as a way of having the reality that you're part of a grand scheme. So that is part of the observation that we have of reality. But the other one is that each human being, including ourselves, is a compacted reduction of the history of creation from the beginning.
Mm. Ooh, all right. Well, can you like expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
So when creation began, it began from our perspective, from nothingness. So it's similar to the Big Bang Theory, but your reasoning should help you with this. So the thing that knows everything, that made everything, would not be having experiences because it knows everything. So to have experiences, it would create reality spheres or realms in order to have experiences. So the way most of the mystic Eastern teachers see it, because this is like the earliest religions, are going all the way back to Hindu, like 5000 BC. So they were actually part of it, the earth transitions to physical transitions. But anyway, their theory or their minds, their ruminations, intuition told them that the God force was nothing. And then it bursted itself into the material universe. A piece of itself bursted itself into the material universe. And then that piece of itself is then fractured again into endless, countless pieces of itself. So it ends up attaching itself to everything that it spreads out of itself. So itself is in everything. Now, humans would be the highest form, a woman and a man. So woman and man are obviously in separate bodies. So there is a question about that, why that is. You know, because in a perfect world, why would we be separated? So there is that question. But before we get to that question, we're talking about the universe and the forms in the universe. So they come in all different dimensions. So there's a degree of formlessness and a degree of form throughout all things. So in the material universe, human, woman, and man live at the center of it because we are the center of it. We're the highest form. The reason we're the highest form is because we're carrying an embed of that first burst. The literal spark of the axis. A spark of... Yeah, I'll just say the one more thing and let you add something. It's like a literal spark or fragment of the axis of the universe, the actual center point where everything began. So we carry that core in the fragmented form. Each of us carries a fragment of it.
Cool. You have like a name that refers to that kind of energy or like the essence? Is it like...
Yeah, well, the best way I can answer you that is that, excuse me, the God is not really a named being because it's not a persona. So God is a force to be reckoned with. So God cannot be pinned down or defined. So we're not going to be able to find a definition of God or even enter God's mind. But we can certainly know God via its expressions, and it expresses itself through nature, the universe, our bodies, our stories. So we're actually partnered with God at all times because our bodies and our stories are the highest expression it made in the entire universe.
I agree with that. That's like real, like very close to my own personal philosophy. That, you know, each person, and even on lower levels, like each animal, even like material things, carry that kind of essence inside of them. And that almost functions kind of like that intuition that we were talking about before. You know, how you can hear your own voice in others' words or characterize something that they might have said or done. Just interpret these things around you in a way that you can't explain very easily using just logic, you know, and that almost to me is kind of that godlike essence or the core kind of we were talking about earlier. It's the explanation, in my view, for a lot of the things that seem to be unexplainable.
Well, because we've tilted into the mental plane, because think of our existence as three planes. We have our mental plane, which is where we drive our existence from. Literally, we cause values up in our brain. We decide where to point our nose. We decide who to listen to. Okay, so this is like the pilot of your experience is up in the brain part. So that's your mental plane. But of course, your brain, head all live within your body. So you also have a physical existence of your anatomy. So the third existence or plane of existence is your energetic existence, which you experience all the time through your thoughts and emotions, feelings, intuition, empathy, telepathy, things like that. So imagination, so all these kinds of things, ideas even can fit into that category because sometimes an idea will pop in your head. And where did it come from? Nothing, right? It came from nowhere. Yeah. So this is always like your three planes of existence, or you're always living it. But the modern human has tilted himself into the mental plane. And because of that, he's exploitable by power of suggestion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that that like the third plane, the energetic one, is that something that all life has on some level, or is that kind of what differentiates humans a little bit, is that we're able to access that plane?
Well, actually, I have a pretty simple answer for you. We're living in the arms of God because the air itself is the flesh of God. So the air is energetic and intelligent and a force. It's the greatest distiller there is in all of nature. Each time we breathe the air, we immerse ourselves with the air through all of our blood cells, and as they touch every part of our body, and it's all connected to the heart and the brain, this whole air system. So air is where sounds pierce. So when we speak and use our tongues, the sound pierces the air. The human voice is deeply coded with data. When you try to record voice, it takes 100 times more data bits than it does to record tones in music. So the human voice is literally coded, but we've trained ourselves through living in the mental plane that our sounds of our speech is only, is limited compared to what it actually is, only because we're not taught. So up there in the voice that we're having this energetic experience. And one of the things we forget is that the voice is happening twice. It doesn't just happen, it's really 3 times. It happens off your tongue, it pierces the air, and then it enters ears. So when those ears take on the voice, their brain decodes all the data bits that your voice had in it. And some of them will resonate with them and some won't. So sometimes voices are irritating. It's because there's a resonant frequency code match that's part of your long history as an entity on Earth. And you don't know why exactly you have this irky feeling, but something about their voice makes you feel funny. So this is like common thing. So this is all part of the whole thing, the 3 planes of existence, the deep coding in the voice. So these are some of the base principles that we're not taught.
Right. Yeah, nobody talks about that. It's kind of frustrating, honestly.
Well, think how powerful we would be as relationships if we were sharing this power that we all have, that we're all sharing, Our relationships would be so much more bonded and they would be so much richer. And we would all be progressing much more fast. So now you understand why the hierarchies of the world do what they do. They hold our attention because if they didn't hold our attention, we would all face each other and find our power almost instantly because their crime spree has gone on for so long. that we've literally aggregated all our experiences along the way. So as dumb as it seems on the surface, the truth is we've all aggregated all the data along the way, same as they have. But we're more powerful than they are. They don't have any power until we grant it to them. So it's a really push come to shove beautiful moment of the greatest game in the universe between the absolute center, most highest power form, the human, and the rest of the spiritual record that lies outside of us from our past. So all of us are together on this, and everything's co-located. So the quote-unquote demons and principal powers, they're literally our family members on the spiritual record of creation. Now, yeah, they might be up to no good, but it's our obligation to set them straight.
It's true. Yeah, you got a sense of duty almost.
Well, with great power comes great obligation.
Yeah, that's definitely true, man.
So if you disrecognize your power, then you're automatically going to disrecognize your obligation.
Yeah, huh? I never really thought about it that way. Is there anything, like any type of particular experience that pushed you to like recognize these things, or was this something that you had to build up real slowly over time, just like little piece by piece?
Yeah, it's been step at a time since I was first revealed around age 7. So
Wow.
at age 7, I realized that all the adults were confused and under a spell because they lied out of both sides of their mouth and admitted half of them with a joke in the front. And they also allowed wars and murder and evil, crime, corruption. They allowed all kinds of stupid shit. This was like back in 1967. That's when I was 7. So that went on for like 4 years of just totally being confused. I mean, I was still had fire. I've always had a fire. My fire is to find out what the big deal is that nobody knows anything, and how did these crime guys get this spell cast over the humans. So I figured out, through studying it, it took forever. I mean, I say forever, but it took from 1967 until right now.
Yeah, it sounded like a lifelong pursuit of just the truth, which I really admire.
Yeah. That put me in isolation a lot because it's being misunderstood, and then also me reacting to people because I'm like trying to like say, hey, we should wake up. And everybody else is saying, no, 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 we should stay asleep. So it's like...
It's true. Well, sometimes it's more comfortable to be asleep than it is to be awake. I guess it's just how much the truth really matters to you,
Well, you got to remember when you were a child, because every 7 years, when we're born on, every 7 years, our brain matter, it reconfigures. So when we're first born, our brain compartment is all gray matter. It's not compartmentalized yet. So the brain works in a different way when we're first born. It's more like an interface to the most purest things. So it doesn't recognize all the separations. It's more unified. So when you're first born, your brain's all gray matter, but each 7-year period is like a threshold of a diminishment of your gray matter into accommodation to the world, which causes your brain to compartmentalize. And this causes you to rationalize separations because you're accommodating the world. There's human beings everywhere. You want to be with them. If that's what they're into, that's what you want to be into. So coming up as a natural design human, you naturally follow along that people want to discuss spreading things around and separating things. That's like the world that we're born into. So it wasn't as high tech when I was born, but we did have television, so it was close. But but anyway, your main self from 0 to 7 is going to be different than who you are from 8 to 14. And then it's going to be different again. So if you're not claiming that early childhood aspect of when you were free to challenge the unknown, then you'll start to fear the unknown. And that'll cause you to run into the arms of the known things, which are dominated by the rulers of this world.
Yeah. Dude, I can't think of a very much way to put that. I think you that last sentence especially, I really empathize with. Yeah. People aren't taught, a lot of the times to kind of go out of their way and face up something that they're not necessarily prepared for or like not comfortable with facing.
Well,
Really
how
valuable.
hard is it to face that parents are the highest criminals on this world? Now, let me explain something to you about the story of Yeshua. Do you have any Christian training? Because I've studied every religion.
I mean, I know basics, you know.
All right, so you know the basics. You know this one. Do you know the saying when he says in the Bible, he's quoted as saying, "I did not come in peace. I came bearing a sword."
Oh, yeah, I have heard that actually.
So the rest of it is, "I came to break the bond between the son and the father, and the daughter and the mother, and the daughter-in-law to the mother-in-law." So what he meant by that is what I'm talking to you about right now. This most greatest ignorance is happening in our world right now, where the parents deeply love and bond with their children, and at the same time they hand them over to wolves.
So are they being protective, or they're not teaching them right things?
No, they don't know. They're ignorant. The parents are ignorant. They don't know better. They're doing the best they can, but what they're doing is criminal. They're aiding and abetting the criminals that rule the world, because they've adopted it as the only thing there is. They've adopted it in their lifestyle. And then they had children. After they gave full value and loyalty to the world, they had children. And then they had, basically, from being so busy, it became very convenient to hand the child over to the cartoons and to the institutions.
Okay. So what's the solution to that? Is it to not have children in the first place, or just...
Well, that's a little bit fatalistic. You want to know where fatalism actually is born from in this world? It's born from religions in Hollywood. So they're equal partners in the game that we play with them. And their business is not only to hold your attention, but to teach you about death, fatalism, dying, and endings, to cause you to be stressed out about that all the time and to believe it, to fully believe that you're a mortal, perishing being that was born for no reason and will die for no reason.
Yeah. So they're trying to get you to kind of deny or like not be in touch with your like spiritual essence or that like energetical plane.
Yeah, well, if they weren't holding your attention with all the different things that they do, because they basically provide all your needs and all your dramas, basically, and all your education.
Yeah.
So they provide everything. So they're trying to hold your attention at all times, so that you don't talk to your inner self, to your intuition. Because if you did, you would start sharing it with your most intimate friends and partners. And then they would say that they're having a similar experience. And then it would start to grow like fire, where each of us would recognize that we have this power source inside of us that's trying to talk back to us when we talk to it.
There's it's that the people controlling those institutions just have a lot to gain. We're divided, and our attention is occupied with something else, like something meaningless, like you said, social media, or other distractions. Like it could be whatever. It could be a sports game on TV. It could be like news of some kind of global conflict happening. Anything to keep you from looking inside yourself and then seeing.
Well, how much waking energy do you have a day? You only have a limited amount, right? Then you have to go back to sleep and get ready for tomorrow. So you only have a set amount of energy that you can devote to things. So as long as they take most of it, you'll be tired out that all you'll want to do is relax and have a little time off and have fun on your downtime. So this way, they don't have to take all your time. They just have to take enough of it that all you want to do is chill during the downtime that you have. And this is a way of basically molding your reality slyly, underhandedly, secretly fucking with you.
Mm-hmm. They make you think that that's the only way that there can be, that there's no alternative to that.
Right. And your parents
whereas you could be doing so much more with your time and really making it to like elevate yourself, because I relate exactly to what you said. Like I come home from work, I work like, 40, 50 hours a week. And all I want to do when I come home is like take a shower and a nap. I don't have time to uplift myself in like any type of way, like even physically, let alone spiritually.
Well, you can say that today's the first day of the rest of your life if you want to, because I think it is.
I hope so, man.
All right, good. I feel that way every day. Believe me, every day when I wake up, it's the first day of the rest of my life, and I'm excited. I have new ideas. I mean, I've been in plenty of jobs where I dedicated hours, but I've mostly had my own businesses, so I had some freedom. But I've played it both ways, having my own business. I've played big ball where you have to always show up because there's a lot of money involved, and there's a lot of decisions to be made and obligations to be met. And then I've played smaller ball where I can have free time. So like now I'm a specialist now, so my business is salvage. So I find junk from old people that are getting rid of because they passed away or they're sick of it or it got dirty and they don't want to clean it or whatever. And then I make it presentable and sell it to the suburban women of the cities of America online. Right. So then, like, I know what to pick because I've been doing it for 25 years. So I'm like the most greatest picker there is. So I know exactly what to pick and how much money to make, how to put it in a box correctly, every detail, every single detail. And I can do all the details quick. So, I can make all the money I need without investing or risking any money. And I still have plenty of time left over to write and bullshit on Discord.
Yeah, that's awesome for you, man. Like, not a lot of people in that type of way. They also, have something like stability, where you're making enough money and you can also have like the freedoms at the same time to use your time how you.
Yeah, I know, because I think I'm up against a lot of college kids who are getting everything paid for. So it's like it's not really a fair match,
Yeah. But you got experience on your side, man. You said it yourself. It's kind of like trade. You just learned the trade all the way through, and now you kind of got, I would imagine, like a leg up on the competition for that reason.
I don't have any competition. Nobody wants to touch the things I touch because they're either too dirty or too heavy. I know just what to touch where there's no competition. So that way, whatever town I'm in, I don't have to get in any skirmishes with any locals.
That's good. I like that a lot. I mean, that's a leg up right there, is being willing in the first place to kind of go and do dirty work where other people aren't.
That's right.
It was like, for my job sometimes, I mean, yesterday I was I was cleaning out an elevator shaft.
Wow.
I was like down there with my buddy, we're scraping like gunk off the walls and shit. It's nasty, but you can make some good money if you're willing to like go where other people are not willing to go.
Absolutely. We used to have a TV show called Dirty Jobs. You ever heard of it?
Yeah. You were not on Dirty Jobs, were you?
No, I wasn't on it, but I'm saying I used to love watching it though. It was a fun show to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It made me think a lot about all the...
Like a celebrity or something.
Nah, it makes you think though about all the dirty jobs, There's so many dirty jobs.
100%. Those are kind of the people that like keep the world going, man. Like, you need those type of people, plumbers and like electricians and like all kinds of people, even like garbage men and stuff like that. I don't think about it, but every time you use like a piece of furniture, you gotta thank like the carpenter. Anytime you take an elevator, you gotta thank the guy who comes in once a month to make sure the elevator's working. There's like a whole lot of stuff like that everyday people kind of take for granted. Maybe that could relate some type of way back to we were talking earlier about people just not being aware when they go back, around their life.
Well, I think they forgot to notice that money is like totally fictitious, and once you get up to a certain level, corporations wise and banker wise, you just write the checks and they get cashed. I mean, like, it's so crazy. The whole history of 20th century is so shady, and then when the way that Federal Reserve Act was passed, it was on Christmas Eve, in the middle of a snowy night, and almost none of the representatives were even in there. So
Really?
what they did was amend the Constitution. At least they passed an amendment, but it's not a legal amendment until it's ratified by 2/3 of the states on a popular vote, right? Legitimately, it has to be majority vote and 2/3 of the state have to agree to the amendment, then it's ratified. So the Federal Reserve Act is an amendment to the Constitution in 1913 that was never put to ratification. It was never put to vote. It was never ratified. It's not a law.
We still follow it all the day.
It's not a law.
That's crazy, man. That's exactly like the type of like deceitful behavior I have just like come to expect. Those people up top, making all the decisions for the rest of us. They'll lie about it, or
Well, it's not the lie. It's not the lie that has the power. It's that we don't protest. That's where the power is. So we tend to flip it because we want to be comfortable in our own existence, and we let each other get away with it. But that's not where the power is. It's not in the lie. It's in the believing the lie is where the power is.
I guess you're right. I really like the way you phrased that when you said we're letting ourselves get away with it. Because not only do we gotta keep ourselves accountable, but we gotta keep everybody else accountable too. Maybe that's like kind of what you're trying to do here,
Well, that's why the crime can only go for so long, because there's a point of no returns it comes to. So I don't know if the Earth I don't know if you've done history on Earth resets, but the Earth goes through these like major cataclysms, and they're called resets, and they're not according to what Smithsonian says. Before I tell you about this, what was I going to talk about besides the resets? I don't even remember. I just have to do a little history lesson here.
Okay.
The Smithsonian Institute is one of the highest masters purveyors of the history of the world, along with Encyclopedia Britannica and the Web of the Stars Dictionary. Web Stars Dictionary. They're telling you the truth right to your ears.
Okay.
You are the star, they're the web to catch you. They're telling you right to your ears, because the reason they have to tell you right to your ears and in the letters is because it's a tricky way to tell you the truth so that you'll agree to the lie. There's no power in lying to you until you agree to the lie. So they have to tell you the truth all the time. So the big truth about the Smithsonian that's glaring, blatant, is in their logo. Have you ever looked at the logo of the Smithsonian Institute? I guess you'll be doing that later, huh? So then when you're done doing that, go look at the logo for the Jesuit order.
Yeah.
The Jesuits.
Same logo?
It's almost identical.
Yeah.
It's almost identical. They're telling you right to your face who they are.
Oh, the point of no return.
So anyway, since the crime has to constantly be told over and over again, and we're aggregating all of our experiences, there comes a point of no return where the crime is completely exposed. So the reason that they're exposing so much out in public right now with all the like quote unquote secrets that are being divulged and blah blah blah, this and that, conspiracy theories being exposed, different types of disclosures, well, everything's metered, because you never needed any of these disclosures to be disclosed. Everything's been disclosed to you as you've been going along. Everything. Right in the sounds and the speech, and symbols. Right in the letters, the actual symbols. What they call sigils, they say they own these secret symbols called sigils. You ever heard that word? Sigil?
Just like kind of these symbols that hold
power.
Kind of like spiritual
right,
power.
But guess what? Sigil means sign. And letters and digits that we use are signs. So our letters and digits are just as much power as any sigil that they say they own. Like, it really doesn't matter what sigil they show you and say it has this power. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they say. You're using letters and digits every day. They're part of your experience all the time, and everything's aggregating. So you're not only are you being told the truth of their deceptions and the sounds and the arrangements, you're being told the truth of yourself. So this is, again, another point of no returns, where while they disclose to you the truth of their crime so that you'll agree to it, They have to expose to you the truth of yourself. There's no way they can avoid it. So they're playing a very dangerous game of suicide, basically. And if they don't completely capture us, they're done.
Yeah.
They expire. All their power will go. They'll melt like the wicked. Have you ever seen Wizard of Oz? So the Wicked Witch of the West, she melts at the end. So that's exactly, if we were to come to realization of who we are, they would melt just like at the end of that movie. Literally melt right in front of us.
Literally melt?
Yes.
Oh, shit. Be kind of crazy to see.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're saying that we have to like recognize within ourselves our real potential, almost.
Well, it's the first thing I said early on is that each human is a reduction of the entirety of creation in a unique station. So we're almost like mini counterfeit gods. We're not God. But because of this great power of holding this reduction, and we can't remember it either, so it makes us kind of stupid at the same time. So like all this junk DNA and all these energetic patterns that are unrecognized, they're part of our story, of our history of the spread of creation. So, this is what makes us so powerful, and this is why we're stared at all the time by the hierarchy. It's why they try all they can to hold our attention at all time, because we are it. We're it. So we're not God, but we're carrying an experience with God, because God's powering our story, and God acts as a fragment and a partner to your newborn self. So before you were born, you were personified, so to speak. In other words, your life story was kind of not pre-told, but the patterns of it were set. So as you were in the womb, you became personified by this spiritual axis of creation that I was referring to. In religions, they call it God, but it's the center point of creation. So as you were being personified by it, your whole history of your history as an individual, and as your anatomy grows, you download the rest of the history of creation. So once you come out, it's all known to you in a kind of a unrememberable way when you were first born. But when you were first born, you were experiencing it that way. And then as you accommodated the world and your brain started to shift and change into a compartmentalized area, then it became forgotten. It melted like the Wicked Witch of the West. So it's just, it doesn't go away completely. Now, this aspect of yourself that holds hands with the axis of creation, it in a way runs to your heart and becomes part of the nuclear reactor force of your heart. So it becomes your essence partner. So your personified self when you were a baby. So that part of you goes and stays in your heart with essence. Essence is your fragment of the axis of creation. So that becomes this partner, yourself when you were a baby. That becomes your will and your intuition. It becomes your decision maker. It gives you the power to be the mediator or the central point between the contentions, to be the one that decides fates, to be the one who decides where to point your nose, what realities you want to unfold. So all these powers are granted to you before you're even born. And then when you're a baby, you experience the world for a time in perfect order until the world forces you to accommodate to it.
I like that theory a lot. And especially what you said really empathized with something that I guess I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is kind of that as much as life is kind of like a story about learning, and gathering new information, it's all also about kind of unlearning things that you've learned that aren't useful anymore. And sometimes that's the biggest roadblock for people, is that there's a belief that they have that's like so wedged so deep in there and they can't get it out. It's not serving them anymore, and it's standing in their way of kind of moving forward with the procession, like you said.
One of the first things, if you find somebody close to you that is seeking this story, the first step for them is to slow down and get their body healthy again. So it's like a two-step thing, but it's the first step. You got to set a foundation. So The most important thing of all actually goes ahead of that, but unfortunately people's bodies are so messed up and they're moving so fast. This is why I made them ahead of the most important step. But really the most important step is to recognize your triune nature. So you were born as three, part from your mother, part from your father, and part your unique you. And you don't lose that as you grow up. You're always these three parts. So it's like a coin. The coin has three parts. It has the face of your mother on one side, the face of your father on the other side, and you're the neutral multiplier that walks the edge. It's written into the
neutral multiplier.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Well, you're neutral, but you're a multiplier because you're holding hands or partnered with the axis of creation or the essence that powers you. So that's the three U's. So the world teaches us to choose sides between either sides of this coin, to choose one is good and one is bad. So this constant choosing of one or the other is anti-nature because you're actually all three. You're your mother's side, your father's side, and your unique self. You're a three-way being. You're not a person that's supposed to choose between the left and the right. But they force us into that dilemma. And this chases us away from our true nature.
So, how would you say is the best way, like if you were going to give advice to somebody who's saying, I want to kind of reconnect with that part of myself that I lost, what advice would you give to them?
The most important thing is to realize that you could be bossed around or you could claim to be the boss of yourself. And the truth is you were born with the power to be the boss of yourself, and you've come to believe that you live in a world where you get bossed around. So little by little, you could tell yourself, you offer yourself a potential to begin. So in order to begin the process of unwinding this, you say, I could do better at being boss of me and not being beholden to suggestions from the external world as much. So you start just as a potential. So even if it takes 2 weeks of doing that, every night before you go to bed, you say, I offer myself the potential that I could do better. Without any details, just the potential only, no pressure at all. Simple language, I offer myself the potential I could do better. So by doing that over and over again and pointing your nose in that direction, things will start to unfold. Coincidences, kismet, ideas will pop in your head. And all of a sudden you'll say, I do believe that I could do better. In other words, your language will start to subtly change. So then you'll start to say, what could I do different today to make my life better tomorrow? All of a sudden, you're finding out that you're the one inside you in partnership with your inner self making these decisions. You're claiming power of being the boss of yourself. And it all started with simple language in your head. I could do better at whatever.
Yeah, the belief, you just gotta have it up here first before you put it out into the world.
No, it's a projection system that you're born with. As you point your nose toward anything, an idea, a person, an object, it immediately starts to engage back with you and starts to draw closer to you. So you have that power as a natural design human. So even if you're just considering the idea of getting better at something, just doing that causes that thing to come closer to you.
Oh, I got you. So I've heard some people describe that almost like, or almost describe like manifestation as a similar
That's the word I was thinking before you said it, and that's the proper word. So manifestation happens all the time in our daily life. We just don't recognize it. So when you're all dressed and showered and everything, you're in your mind, I'm going to pick up my keys, get in the car, and drive to work. Well, guess what? That came from nothing, out of the air, and you manifested it into a reality. You went and picked up your keys, you walked out to the car, you got in, you started up, and you started driving. None of that happened until you started as an idea in your mind out of the air, and then you manifested it into reality. This is something we do throughout each day, but we fail to recognize it with each other.
It's like maybe the thing. A lot of stuff you said resonated with me, but some of it, was stuff that I kind of already been thinking about in a similar way. Something that almost like eye-opening almost, you know?
Well, you're going to carry, you don't really know how it's all going to gel in your mind and your emotions, because you're going to, you might come up with some different questions tomorrow. You'd be like, you know what, I wonder what the answer to this question would be, or this question. So, but I found the experience very helpful talking to you also. So I appreciated it very much.
Yeah, I figure, I don't know, I guess just my personal philosophy is that if I ever kind of sense that like somebody has something that they feel like other people need to hear, that I should like that person deserves an audience, you know? And I figure that like I only stand to gain from that. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, and I try to keep an open mind. So I like to go out of my way to have experiences like this one, because that's how you pick up knowledge, man. You just I don't know how else to describe it, but that's the best way that I've found